In this video, I want to show you my favorite method for joining frame and panel assemblies. So this could be end panels that are permanently mounted to the ends of upper or lower cabinets, or it could be doors. The reason I like this method is because it's strong and it's also easy to do with just regular workshop type equipment. Now, this is a mock-up that I use in my seminars, and that's why there's some writing on here talking about the panel and how it works. But it is an excellent mock-up to show you how it all fits together. So this piece of wood here, this is the stile and the rails. Rails always fit between stiles. And what we've got going on here is the floating tenon arrangement. This is a separate piece of wood here in the end. In this case, it's oak. The tenons should be hardwood, and what you need to notice about this is that the grain runs this way. We don't want the grain running this way, because that will make for a very weak tenon. But if the grain's running this way, it's quite strong, plenty strong. So the grooves I like to make with a wing cutter. In this case, I could use a straight bit in a router table, but the wing cutter is better for one important reason. If you can imagine this sitting in a router table and spinning like this, the bearing rides against the edge of the stile in this case, and it regulates the cutting depth. Now, I need to make two passes because the wing cutter is not wide enough to make the width of groove that I want. But the real advantage of the wing cutter comes in to the end of the rails. So when I'm milling a rail like this, and the wing cutter is cutting this way, to cut the groove on the end, I just go around the end. And I cut it like that. So that's something that I can't do nearly as well with a straight bit in a router table, but the wing cutter works very well. And it gives a nice consistent width too. So I'll do one side, and then I'll flip it over and repeat the process to get the width that I need. And then cut my tenons, and they just fit in the ends, floating tenons in the ends, and I'm ready to assemble the outer frame. Now, this panel is worth looking at more closely too. This is a raised panel that I have created with nothing more than a table saw and a hand plane. And I'll be showing you more about that later. But the reason I like that, this approach, is because it doesn't require fancy equipment. It doesn't require a fancy machine setup either. But most importantly, it allows me to create a wide bevel, wider than I could have gotten with a router table, and even wider than what I could have gotten with a medium-sized shaper. So I'll be going into more about that later on, but you'll notice here that I've stained the edges of this panel. That's because the way frame and panel works is that the frame is more or less inert. It doesn't change shape with humidity and things. But the panel, because it's free floating inside, is allowed to move back and forth. And if I plan to stain my doors, then I don't want any unstained wood showing through. So I stain it ahead of time before assembling. But there's the approach in a nutshell. Thanks for watching. Click here to join the thousands of people who get the Bailey Line Road hands-on how-to newsletter for free every Saturday morning.